Frank Jenkins finally spoke out about the sad death of his beloved wife, actress Lynn Hamilton, after months of painful silence. But no one was ready for what he told them. Fans can't believe what Frank has said, from shocking claims to heartfelt confessions. Plus, it makes people really wonder what happened behind closed doors. This isn't just an honor, it's a coming together. This is Lynn Hamilton. The name makes me think of warmth, power, and classic beauty. A lot of people remember her as Donna on Sanford and Son, but she was more than just a TV star. She was a wife, a friend, and a quiet, wise person who touched everyone's life. Hollywood and her many fans were shocked when they heard the news of her death. Many were left with heavy hearts and unsolved questions. Frank Jenkins, her husband, didn't say anything for months. No talks in public or interviews, just silence. And that silence let stories spread, a lot of them. Was there more to Lynn's death than what we were told? Why was her husband so quiet around other people? What was going on behind the scenes as she died? Finally, Frank broke the quiet for the first time, and what he said shocked everyone. We're breaking down everything in this video, from the sad last days of Lynn Hamilton to the shocking statement that Frank Jenkins just made. You'll hear things that haven't been said before, how fans and other artists feel about it, and the strange contradictions that have come up since he said that. You won't believe who and why they tried to shut Frank up. This is where everything starts to fall apart. We'll take it one step at a time. On and off the screen, Lynn Hamilton was always known for her quiet elegance. And even though she didn't show up as often these days, her fans still loved having her around. But behind Lynn's pretty face, few people knew that she was quietly dealing with major health problems that would eventually take her life too soon. Close family friends say that Lynn's health started getting worse quickly in the last year of her life. People who went to the couple's house said they saw scenes that were both sad and hard to understand. It was said that she was getting weaker, more distant, and needing more care. This woman was nothing like the strong woman we saw on TV. A few people say she had trouble talking. Others said that she was no longer responding to guests. Even so, no official medical report was ever made public. There were no press releases from the hospital or the family, and it was strange that no memorial services were mentioned right away. Lynn is loved and admired, so the silence only made people think more about her. What made things even stranger was that Frank Jenkins, her husband of decades, had not talked to her at all. Not a single word, not even a mention on social media that she had died. Fans started to wonder, why was he so quiet? Was he grieving alone, or did he have something he didn't want to say? Sources now confirm that Frank was rarely seen in Lynn's last weeks. Some sources said that nurses were hired 24 hours a day to take care of her. However, neighbors say they saw strange fights between Frank and Lynn's family members. Some of them were reportedly worried about how she was being treated in her last months. Someone close to the family, who asked to stay anonymous, said something very scary. At times, Lynn looked like she was scared. Though she didn't say much, her eyes told you everything. There was a problem. But this is where things get even stranger. Lynn's court matters are said to have changed in the days before she died. Entertainment lawyers who looked at the papers say that her estate plans may have been changed at the last minute. Some family members are now having doubts about the changes. Who gave them permission? Why did they have to hurry? What's more, did Lynn really understand what she was signing? The rest of the world didn't know about any of this until now. What really took place in those last days? Were there warning signs that no one saw? Or was this just a painful end to a long stay in the hospital? There's something wrong with the story either way. But now comes the part that no one saw coming. No one spoke up for months until Frank Jenkins did. What he said shocked everyone and made people wonder even more. Frank Jenkins didn't say a word for almost 4 months after Lynn Hamilton died. There will be no speeches, interviews, or public appearances. Fans waited, hoping that he would finally talk about the death in public, but the silence got too loud. Then he spoke out of the blue. In a tense and emotional movie that was put online and then taken down 48 hours later, Frank Jenkins was sitting in a dark room and looked tired and upset. When he started, his voice cracked. "I've been quiet for a reason. No, I did not care. It was just that no one was ready to hear what I had to say." It wasn't a polished press release, but the almost 18-minute video has since been shared informally on fan forums and gossip pages. It was real, uncensored, and sometimes scary. Frank started by talking about Lynn's last days, saying that she was having a harder time than anyone knew and that her condition had gotten so bad that there was no longer any quality of life. He said that doctors didn't think they had much hope and that Lynn had quietly asked not to be kept alive by machines. But it wasn't how he talked about her illness that made people angry. It was the way he spoke. Frank looked defensive and maybe even angry. He said at one point, "People think they know what happened because they saw her on TV. You didn't know her pain. You didn't know the weight I carried." That one quote went viral. Many people understood the grief he may have been feeling, but some were shocked by what they saw as moving blame onto fans, the media, and even Lynn's extended family. The big shock came when Frank talked about the rumors of changes to the estate and problems in the family. His words were not clear. Things did change, but not the way people think about them. Lynn was sure of what she wanted. Even though her brothers didn't agree with me, I didn't do anything wrong. He wouldn't say anything specific about the law, but he did say one last thing that shook social media to its core. I'll take some things with me to the grave. Not everything is open to everyone. Some fans thought Frank might have been hiding something after hearing the line, "I'll take that to my grave." What was it? Was it grief or something darker? People in the family responded right away. An aunt of Lynn's had been very public about how sick her aunt was getting. In a now-deleted tweet, she said Frank's words were practiced. His silence wasn't grief, it was guilt. Even Lynn's former co-stars have spoken out. That's not the Frank I remember. He was calm and grounded. An unnamed co-worker from Sanford & Son is said to have said, "This man looks like he's hiding something." Fans are now split. Some say Frank was a man who was weeping and finally broke because of the stress of the loss and the rumors. Some people think that what he said makes more questions than it answers, and that maybe, just maybe, the whole truth about Lynn Hamilton's death is still hidden. But now the surprise everyone didn't see coming. There have been rumors that civil action may be coming. Most people thought there would be backlash when Frank Jenkins shared that emotional and confusing video, but no one thought it would cause such a legal storm. In the days that followed, rumors turned into official complaints. Now the death of Lynn Hamilton may be going into very public and very messy ground. Several entertainment lawyers and family members say that Lynn's extended family is now seriously considering going to court, not only over the alleged changes to her estate, but also over concerns about her care, medical treatment, and the events leading up to her death. One of Lynn's nieces first asked the California Department of Health and Human Services, in a formal way, if Lynn's end-of-life care was done in an ethical way, and if Frank's account of Lynn's alleged requests was legally recorded and confirmed. A lawyer close to the family told a local news outlet, "There were important decisions made in her last weeks. Many family members were not told about decisions about medical care, asset transfers, or access to communication. That alone should have raised red flags, but it didn't." One of the biggest red flags was the sudden changes that were made to Lynn Hamilton's will just 3 weeks before she died. Official court documents that were leaked on fan forums say that a new version of her will got rid of 2 long-name beneficiaries who were both blood relatives and gave all property rights and financial control to Frank Jenkins alone. This has of course raised questions. Was Lynn mentally sound when those changes were made? Were these decisions really hers? If not, who made them? Then came the shocking testimony of Annalise, a former caretaker who worked in the home for just under 2 months before quitting suddenly. In an anonymous phone interview, she said that Lynn seemed anxious when she was left alone with Frank. "She grabbed my hand one time and said, 'Help.' It hurt me. After a week I left." Her testimony, which hasn't been proven, is now reportedly being looked over by lawyers for Lynn's family members. There hasn't been a formal criminal investigation started yet, but legal experts say that there are a lot of red flags, such as last-minute changes to the will, concerns from caregivers, and family members being left out, which could justify a court-ordered review. One probate lawyer even said that the case was a textbook example of elder abuse warning signs. Of course, the media has picked up on the story. News sites like Radar Online, The Shad Room, and even mainstream ones like TMZ are now covering it. And as each day goes by, more and more people want the police to look more closely at not only the legal documents, but also Frank Jenkins himself. But Frank hasn't said anything since he posted and then deleted his controversial video. His lawyer won't say anything, and when reporters tried to get in touch with him, they were told he's not available for interviews at this time. So now the question isn't just what happened to Lynn Hamilton. The question is whether one of the most unexpected court battles in Hollywood history will happen over her legacy. As rumors, legal tensions, and emotional evidence swirl around Lynn Hamilton's death, one group has become louder than ever, her fans. And they're not just sad anymore. They want Frank Jenkins to be held responsible. After the now famous video, social media went crazy. People posted reactions on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube that ranged from sadness to anger, along with hashtags like "Oh Justice for Lynn." All what happened to Lynn and Gank Frank tell the truth became popular in the region. In just 1 week, thousands of people were talking about every second of Frank's video, every word he said, and every hint that was hidden between the lines. One post that went viral on X, formerly Twitter, said, "We grew up watching Lynn Hamilton play one of the strongest women on TV. She's no longer there. There are no answers from her husband, and no one wants to say what really happened." "Nope, we're not going to be quiet," said one user who posted side-by-side screenshots of Lynn at her last public appearance, a virtual fundraiser in early 2023. She looked much thinner than in earlier photos, and her voice and face were blank. It just said, "This woman wasn't okay, and nobody helped her." The emotional response has been huge. On TikTok, creators with millions of followers are now going into great detail about Lynn's last days. One creator even did a live stream called "Uncovering Lynn Hamilton's Final Moments," which drew over 250,000 viewers in just one night. But it's not just regular people who are upset. A number of celebrities have joined in, including actors from Lynn's generation who worked with her during the golden age of black television. One former cast member of Good Times wrote, "Lynn had grace.
She had pride. If she had to suffer in silence, we let her down. Fans have also started to get together. A petition on change.org has already gotten over 87,000 signatures calling for an official investigation into how Lynn's estate and medical care were handled by the law. The description of the petition says, "We, the fans and supporters of Lynn Hamilton, ask for transparency and justice. Her story needs to be told, and if she can't speak up in this life, it must be heard in the next." You can hear more than just computer noise. Effects are being felt in the real world. Not long ago, a small group of activists held a quiet vigil outside of a Los Angeles probate court. Signs that said, "Do not be quiet" in her name were held up along with pictures of Lynn. Ask Frank the right things. It might have been the most powerful moment when she was on the radio, talking to a culture historian who studies how black women are portrayed on TV. Lynn wasn't just Donna on Sanford and Son. She was a role model for a whole generation of women who had never seen themselves reflected in someone so strong and lovely, she said. If her death was confused and unfair, then we owe her the truth. Not just as fans, but as a culture. Fans aren't just sad, they're also taking action. They're keeping track of timelines, comparing legal documents, and demanding honesty from all parts of the media. As the pressure grows online, legal experts say that a public investigation, or at least a probate court review, may not just be likely but necessary. But here's the scary part. Family members say there may be one more piece of evidence. Lynn made an unreleased voice recording just days before she died. If it's real, it could change everything. Just when the story seemed to be at its peak with legal threats, public backlash, and a lot of questions, a new twist came up. Several people close to Lynn Hamilton's family have now said that she may have left behind a private voice recording in the days before she died. The recording is said to be an emotional message that was made in secret and could reveal her mental state, her final wishes, and maybe even her fears. The tape hasn't been made public yet, but just the fact that it exists has led to a lot of questions. What did she say? Why was it recorded in secret? And most importantly, who was she trying to protect or warn? A close family friend says that Lynn played the tape on a small digital device that she kept hidden in her bedroom, possibly under her mattress or in a drawer. A caregiver found Lynn's device soon after she died and gave it to a trusted family member. Since then, only a small legal team and a few relatives are said to have looked at the content. A family member leaked a shocking statement to an online tabloid. Lynn knew her time was almost up. She knew what was going on around her. She might not have been fully strong, but she was clear. That recording is her truth. It's her voice, and the world will hear it when the time is right. If this is true, it changes everything. Because if Lynn, who was always calm, private, and quiet, felt the need to record her last thoughts on audio, she may have known that her story would not be told correctly after she died. That alone is terrible. Legal experts say that a recording like that might be allowed in court, especially in cases involving estate disputes or elder abuse. If Lynn talks about how she was feeling, the decisions that were being made around her, or who she trusted or didn't trust, it could become the most important part of a case that is already on the verge of scandal. But it gets even worse. Some insiders say that people have been trying to stop the recording from being released. There are rumors of legal threats, family problems, and growing pressure from people who may not want Lynn's raw words to be heard by the public. An anonymous source said people are scared. That proves it's real. No one would care about that tape if it didn't mean anything, but it does, and someone doesn't want it heard. The fans, who are already emotionally invested, are demanding transparency. Several creators on TikTok and YouTube have started campaigns with the hashtag #ReleaseTheTape, calling on the family to honor Lynn's last act of agency, her voice. In other news, Lynn's longtime pastor recently said in a live sermon, Lynn had her struggles, but she also had her strengths. We shouldn't bury her truth either if she told it. People said we should listen, but it's not clear if the tape will ever be made public because of possible defamation lawsuits and legal issues. There is one thing that is certain though. If this tape exists and says what many people think it says, it could completely change the story. Frank Jenkins' version of events would be looked at even more closely, and Lynn's treatment in her last days could fall apart under the weight of her own voice. The most sad thing about Lynn Hamilton is that she may have tried one last time to speak for herself, but we may never hear it. She spent her whole life letting her character speak for her.